Welcome, guys. Welcome to Mindful Trip. I'm your host, Luciana Machado, a psychoanalyst who is all about psychedelics and all altered states of mind. Today, I'm bringing you my master, who introduced me ayahuasca, introduced me to psychoanalysis with psychedelics, and she's my inspiration. That's why I bring her today. She's Brazilian, Elaine DeMarco, a psychoanalyst as well, and ayahuasca ceremonialist. Welcome, Elaine. How are you today? Thank you for talking from Brazil. I'm in Vietnam, she's in Brazil, but we have a different time zone and we made it work. How are you?
Hello to you. Thanks for the invitation. I'm here from Brazil, and it's incredible that we can do such a meeting on a
Yes.
phone talking about psychedelics and about cure and about humanity as such.
So, Elaine, today I would like to understand more why psychedelics with psychotherapy is so effective. Why everybody's talking about, why this is the new realm from psychiatry, including psychoanalysis is going forward, even from psychology. So we could explain better for those who are not very familiar.
Yes, just on time, actually. We are on we are on carry on with all this illness from the beginning of the world, and we also had all the medicines since from beginning of the world, and just now science discovered all the benefits of these power plants, and these power plants uh, contains substances that uh, are much more effective. And nowadays, we need such a things. We need very quick,
Definitely.
very quick improvement. And these plants, they are very rich in just what we need, in just what our brain needs, you know. I like to give the example of a car. I have
Mhm.
a car and I have to put petrol on to go on. Yes?
Yes.
But I also need to put oil in the motor. And if we don't put petrol, we don't move. If we don't put oil in the motor, we can move, but we just kaput. You know?
True.
And our brain is somehow like that. It needs uh, a right biochemical life. It has its own chemical life, yes, and it needs to be on the level, on the right level. And
Mm.
if it's not, we just burst. We just become ill,
Yeah.
you know. And
We are,
this substance, they it has just what our brain needs, as I said before.
mhm. Yes, they are running in gas, but they are low in oil, right? Something to lubricate their engines, right? So it's not really making a sense. So there's no real connection between all the parts. They are kind of running in autopilot. Can you say that?
Yes, absolutely. And finally, the academic world, you know, the scientific world has discovered all these benefits. And now we talk about proved things. And a few years before, when I started, for example, 27 years ago, uh, we only talked about spiritual, the
Mm-hmm.
spiritual. We didn't know anything
behind, right?
Yes, we didn't know anything about the scientific world behind it. And nowadays we do have lots of notices, and it's um, the the world of, how to call it, the pharmacal,
Mm-hmm.
the pharmacal world, hasn't been given any investment for many years, many years. The
Well,
last one was,
right? The
sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The profit is different after all, because they are natural plants. Nobody's manipulating them.
Yes, and the last big investment in the pharmacal world was Prozac. You remember Prozac?
Oh yeah.
When Prozac came,
Was a bloom.
the
right?
it was a boom, After that, nothing happened anymore. They just had somehow the same things, and
change a little bit there, change a little bit here, but it was the same principle, definitely. Yeah.
the same principle, changed the names and things like that, but it all became absolutely equal,
Yes.
And we nowadays we have the scientific world telling us, proving us that we have new illnesses being treated with old medicines.
It's like to say that a colonizer came and discovered a culture, kind of thing, right?
That's it.
Already was people there, was already a land, everything was working, and then suddenly someone came and discovered that culture, that country, and rename it and made it famous. Can we do this analogy? Yes, we can, right? Yeah. So
and on the opposite of the pharmacal business, we have the scientific world just discovering all these benefits from these power plants, and there are billions of investments.
Definitely. Yeah, that's we see a lot.
Yes, lots of researchers and lots of talking around the world, and that's it. Now we do have the real medicines. Now we came to know the real medicines, the ones that since the beginning of the world, they all were there.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know.
Can we use the kind of analogy that our ancestors used to evolve, and now we are doing the same? Like right now, we got stuck in a society that are so sick, are so ill, like in every sense, about food, about kind of news they are listening, how they are working towards our, evolution. So now we need something to break this up, right? Reformulate our way to think and our behavior, for sure. So psychedelic could be a new chapter in our society evolution again, because I can understand that, and our ancestors already did. So now we are just using the same but differently.
Yes, it's a password.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same password. We are just repeating what they did before, and humanity has been through all this way to start again. It's like a circle. It has its point where it begins, and then it goes round, around, and then it comes again in the beginning. And maybe it's happening.
How ayahuasca works for a ceremony purpose and for a 101, a psychotherapy assisted by psychedelic. The one you introduced me, the first one.
In the ceremonial, spiritual work, we call it. In the ceremony, we are just in an expanded way of consciousness, yes, through music, only music. And we don't have an intermediate. We have the direct contact with the divine, with its on the other side, yes. We manage to go there without dying. We cross the threshold, yeah, and that makes easier to understand the purpose of life, the purpose of our living, and through the synapses, we just gain a greater, a bigger understanding of us, of ourselves, of the world, because of the effect, because of that oil that you give to the motor. No? It's not petrol, but it is the oil to makes the engine, work better.
So for us that are in ceremonial, right, when we start with the ceremonial, we are most open to the ineffable, right? It's like we expect to see things that we are not used to see. We be connected with some part of us that we don't are real in touch with often, or some entities or some visions that we normally can correlate with dreams, with the mystical part of the brain. But when we are in a psychotherapy assisted by psychedelics, we have the music, we have a playlist, we have a setting, a set, but we have a professional, right? So exactly what part is the most important? Is the medicine or is the afterwards? For example, the integration. When you are in a clinical context, you have someone who has more information to give you.
Yes, absolutely. This about ayahuasca business and all the psychedelics, we are now living a boom as well, and there are many groups, there are many shamans, there are many settings and lots of things, in each corner you can find one. The difference when you are in the other contest, the clinical contest, we need the before the experience. We need to talk. We need to bring about some points, and then we have the experience, and then we have the integration. What you have lived in the experience and how it is, how we're going to do from now on. Because now you can see life different as before.
Okay, my next question will be about the bad trips, the famous and like so much worry about the bad trips. So could you explain you a little bit more like how the bad trips works? They are real bad or actually they help you as well?
Yes. The most important thing is to have a bad trip, an assisted a bad trip. You can have a bad trip. There's no problem of having a bad trip, but you need to be assisted in the bad trip as well, in the good trip and in the bad trip, And Yes, it does. It exists. And somehow you have to go through it. If it's bad or not, you have to go through it. And if you are assisted, you can go through calmly, easily, with security in the setting.
Mm-hmm.
What is a bad trip? The bad trip is about the set, your mindset. That is the bad trip. The bad trip can be if you are afraid, if you are insecure, if you are out of control, that's what we call bad trips.
Let's say for the bad trip is more common the fact you didn't prepare yourself properly. Like you probably had a very bad week before, you had some drinks, you didn't really meditate before, or had some different food. A diet can influence a lot because our first brain is our guts, right? The intestine. So when you have a bad diet before, or you're having some drinks, alcohol, and then you decide to go for psychotherapy with psychedelics or just go for a ceremonial, is more like to have some bad trip.
It helps if you do everything properly, but a bad trip is something absolutely consciously.
Mm.
It's something that you don't know. You can have all the preparation and still have a bad trip, because the real bad trip is unknown.
Yeah, let's break it down. What is a real bad trip? Is the fact you didn't accept to see your shadows. You're not open to see what belongs to you. I normally would like to say to my clients that we have a trunk, right, in the basement of our brain. So that part is not never take care, you never clean, it's there for years. You know it's there, but you don't open. But the psychedelic comes and floods your brain and brings a light on your basement. And naturally, you're going to see that trunk and you need to open. So it's up to you to do the service. Or either you clean and take care of that, or that thing is going to keep bothering you for years and time, life, is still there. So would you say that the bad trip is all about acceptance?
Yes, I think so. And it is all about the unknown. We are afraid of what? We are not afraid of things that we know. We are afraid that we don't know. Once you get to know, there is no reason to be afraid anymore. But what really scares us is when we see things about ourselves. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then a bad trip, what is a bad trip? You can be afraid, you can scream, you can cry,
The
can
denial.
smile, that is a bad trip.
Yes, and that's the most common part that I have seen is when my client says like, no, 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 that's not mine. No, no, that was just a bad trip. So there is right there a denial, right? And when you opt, like when you choose to not change, the option was already taken. So you decide not do much. So my other point will be, so psychedelic is not the only answer, right? It's a great tool, but people still think that keep doing therapy and just talking is not necessary anymore after you do psychedelics, right? So that's why some people just start to do some trips by themselves, and then they realize the things that didn't go so well for them. They say, hey, psychedelic's not that good. But actually, psychedelic is just a tool. It's not a way of resolve things, a way of solve things. Is that true? Is that right?
Yes. Yes, I keep saying psychedelic is an experience. If
Mm-hmm.
you have you don't have the assistance, if you don't have the psychoanalyst with you, if you can't talk about everything, if you can't try to understand everything that happened during your experience is going to be an experience, only an experience.
It's like going to a roller coaster, right? It can be amazing, can be great, but if it rains, might be not so great, and that's it. And then you go home and you can have either a nightmare, or you say, like, that's not for me, I will not do it again. Something like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. A bad trip is not something else. A bad trip doesn't get you.
Mm-hmm.
You are not it's not a bad luck to get a bad trip, No, the bad trip is inside of you. You carry a bad trip. It's absolutely you a bad trip. And many people say, no, I didn't like it. I didn't like psychedelics. I heard once, I'm very disappointed. I expected much more from ayahuasca.
Yeah, I heard that too. Like, oh, I didn't see anything. Like what you expecting to see? Like hummingbirds, a mandala, flowers, a rainbow. But yeah, if you don't really have that on you, you will not see it. A trip is not about the other. A trip is about yourself. So it's really hard to explain that.
And then you see the importance of being assisted, by a professional, and trying to make this person who is disappointed with the power plant, and imagine how this person sees the world.
Yeah, so we are talking about the ego right here. So my other point will be, so psychedelics, when you have the breakdown, when you really dissolve the ego. So tell us about more the dissolution of the ego.
That is the point. Without it, we don't get good results. It must happen. It must go to this point of dissolution of ego.
Well, depends to the acceptance. I told you, right? If the person has humble attitude during the journey, we like accepting, listening, not really putting back their thoughts, right? Because the most important part for us as a preparation therapist and assisting them is to let them know, like, hey, you're gonna have all the kinds of thoughts, but just watch them. Don't go to that the thoughts, like don't go to the thinking way, because something needs to take over of your brain, right? It's exactly when the floods of the serotonin, endorphin, and all the substance take over of your brain. So if you want to take over, then you're going to have a fight. And during this fight is the moment that you don't have a good assimilation. You're gonna have some good neuroplasticity for sure, but assimilating this will be different. So what I want to say that is the ego dissolution happens to those are prepared to see what they need to see.
Yeah, there is a mystery about it. To cross the threshold, in order to cross the threshold, you must get the ego dissolution. You can't cross the threshold with your ego.
So we can say that for ceremony and for psychedelic therapy is different doses.
Yes, absolutely. In the PAP, PAP, Psychedelic Assisted by Psychoanalyst, and in this setting, the dose is bigger because you have to cross the threshold. In a ceremony, because there is a current, we call it a current, an energetical current, and then there are many more mystic things
Going there, yeah. Well, there's how can I say, the ceremonialist support for sure, right? We have this kind of current that I say is energetic. Everybody's donating their energy, so you don't need as much because people are supporting you, kind of thing.
Yes, that's right. And in the setting, um, you are there on your own. We are there, the professionals are there just to support, to give support, because there you are absolutely sure you are going to cross the threshold.
But definitely, when that happens, then the therapy starts. When the ego is dissolved, then finally this person is open to come and see these wounds, right? And make reframe of this trauma or situation or even a fear. We don't know if it's a PTSD, is something very profound, a major trauma, major depression. So in this case, then is real need the therapy, the talking therapy afterwards, right? We still have the integration right after the session, which kinds of start to connect dots, right? I say we are just sewing all the little papers they just receive, they download, and then finally in therapy, what happens?
Yes, that's it. It's really sewing all the bits.
Definitely when the process starts. Would you say healing?
Yes,
I don't like this word very often because this thing about healing is about, when you had the surgery and you had a different a cut for sure, and that's gonna heal. But we don't really heal. We just understand and we resignify this pain, right? We're always gonna have this, but now we're gonna see in with different, I don't know, context, weight, like we give a different weight for that, right?
but the person needs to be absolutely opened, because to cross the threshold, it can be not wonderful, for some people, and some people might not dare to look at the other side, and then they say they are disappointed with the power plant. You know, to cross the threshold is necessary.
Well, I'm going to
But
use myself as an example for you right now. I used to be your patient, right? So how many times I was keeping trying to have answers doing my psychedelic therapy instead to look to my own wound and inside and look at in with me what was wrong, why I couldn't see properly, right? For so many years, I was trying to find an answer. Oh, I need to do more ayahuasca. And then you say, well, maybe not, right? It's not the quantity, it's the quality of your work. Is it right?
yeah, it's a process. It's a process. There you can compare with this healing of a surgery. It's a healing. It's healing. It's all healing. Bit by bit, bit by bit of healing.
You're only going to understand what you need to do when you really are open, when you will accept. I used to say as well, like you cannot start a new chapter without finishing the first one. You're not going to understand the second part. If you don't really go further in a study, like we say that in Dime, right? Define study, like between one ceremony to another, which is say, I will not give more ayahuasca to you if you don't really finish your first chapter.
It's the work of struggling. Just it.
Well, people will be a little scared after this conversation. But it's real. The struggle is real, but it's totally worth it. the outcome, like when you cross the other side, is wonderful. It's like life-changing, game-changing. For example, after this, would you introduce microdosing? How it works? People are very curious about microdosing. Some people even think that microdose will fix it without a macrodose, without a bigger dose. How microdosing works?
Yes, it does work very well. It is not absolutely, the studies about macrodoses, it's not absolutely finished yet. But according to my experience, I can tell you that it really does. You know, there was once a patient came in talking about the husband of her daughter, and she was very angry about him, and she was swearing, and she was very cross with him. She couldn't even say his name.
Wow.
Yes. And then she started taking the microdoses. Can you believe that in the next session, next week, she started talking, she started saying the name of the man.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how much was the microdosing?
Yes, just a teaspoon.
Of DMT brew?
Yeah, like a teaspoon.
Okay, so was very effective. Only the fact she already was open new pathways in her brain. Like we say that she was more realistic about the acceptance of the problem, because we say in psychology, where there's acceptance, there's no suffering.
We call it neuroplasticity. Yeah, it gives neuroplasticity to the brain, and so it can kind of produce good thoughts.
And because exactly what happens to that part is the part that was like in circle, right? She was not even thinking, she could not say the name, so she was in denial, she was in anger. So when the plasticity starts, it's like breaking through this pathway that was kind of broken. It's like a scratch record, like always in the same line. Then we give the psychedelic, the substance, and then comes another pathway. Would say that?
Yeah. Absolutely well said.
And that happens for anxiety, for people who has ADHD, like they cannot thinking too much, or they can not going through one only task. They have to do, I don't know, the dishes, then clean the car, then go for, I don't know, maybe laundry all the same time, and they didn't finish. They are so tired in the end of the day. But with a little microdosing for a few days, they will see a different result. Like I have a patient that he has some, childhood traumas from sexuality, and only with microdose of LSD he started to talk about his body, right? Before he couldn't even touch himself, because sex for him was something that was not pleasant, was not nice, not even for himself touching himself. So yes, sometimes you don't need the microdose, you just need the small dose, right? Because depends how big is your trauma, or how heavy is it. Maybe we don't need to go through all the big situation, like can be very traumatic as well, right? A journey. So we can avoid sometimes only with microdosing. So would you start with microdosing or with the big setting journey? Or
It depends. It really depends, Depends if the person wants to have the experience, or if she needs the microdose first in order to get to the ceremony, And what is very important, very interesting about microdoses is how it works on the dreams.
Mm.
A person who takes microdoses very often starts dreaming,
Mm.
dreaming about specific things, and bringing up some specific points. And it's very interesting. Once a lady told me that she didn't want to drink the microdoses anymore.
Mm.
Then I said, "Why? Tell me why." And then she said, "I keep dreaming with my husband, and her husband had died already. I keep dreaming of my husband. And tell me what you dream about your husband." "I dream that he's going away."
Wow, I got
And
goosebumps.
then, yeah, and then said, "Yes, but where is he going? Why don't you want?" And then you start with all these
Mhm.
therapeutic questions,
Mhm.
where he's going. Why don't you want him to go? And etc., 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 And then it helps a lot to bring things up, all things that were all hidden in the unconscious. And it helps to bring about. And so we can talk about.
Yes, once again, you're proving that psychedelics is a great tool, but is not the only thing will bring you answers, right? Is again, open a wound and you need some professional to clean it up for you, like to not have another infection or keep being opened. And yes, microdose is very effective, but not itself only, right? Because I have a lot of people coming to me saying, hey, I don't need therapy. I'm doing microdosing. I said, great, but what is the goal only doing microdosing? Where you want to get after that? Because you're going to start to have several open trunks and you're not going to clean them. You're going to keep like just accumulating information. What are you going to do? You're going to be very confused because you need to apply that to your real life, right? That's why I used to say that transpersonal psychology is so important technique in the branch of psychology for who does microdosing, macrodosing, who does psychedelics, right? Who has this alternative states of mind. Can it just be meditation, right? Meditation brings a lot of a clear path, but once you don't have someone to talk, to put it out, will be inside of you for a long time, right? That's what's the point, the breaking point of being talking. Don't you think? Would you say that?
Mind you, the only tool that we have in the psychoanalysis is the talking, is the speech. We don't have any other tool. We
Well, we
need to
have
talk about
journaling as well. Journaling is very effective with the talking therapy. No?
yeah, if a person takes the microdoses and let's take this example, of from this lady, and if she wasn't doing sessions, therapy sessions, and then she would say, well, I don't want to dream with my husband anymore. Point. Stop. What's the point of taking microdoses? It started dreaming, it started understanding, it started with the synapses if the person doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you want to have an experience, only an experience. Okay, it's okay. We do have a group of people who like to have journey together and things like that, but it's just an experience. It has nothing to do with a treatment.
Yes, not to mention that, right? When people has this microdosing in recreational set and maybe with drink as well, like they have alcohol and microdosing of psilocybin, and they say, yeah, it didn't go well for me. And then say, wow, it's like you're taking the poison and the antidote together, because alcohol will break and destroy bridges, and psychedelics will try to build. So what's the point to do all together? So your brain doesn't know what to take, doesn't know what directions go. So yes, another point for like setting purpose and why you're doing this, right? I always ask to my all clients, and everybody who comes to me like, hey, can you give me a tip how to do psychedelic, or like with my friends? I said, well, who are these friends, right? This energy they are bringing to you, like they know normally will do for fun, but the outcome can be not that fun anyway. So what do you say to these people who are just I want just a spoon of ayahuasca, then I went to a park?
Well, yeah, you should take it, other drugs, in the streets with people making nonsense, all around in parties and haves and things like that. It's something completely different, You can have better drugs.
But one thing at a time, right? I will not mix mushroom or LSD and alcohol for a party, because, you're open different portals. You're, let's say, very like simple way, you're open gate of heaven and the gate of hell. And then you're like, okay, let's come out, everybody together. And like, it's like that, right?
That's right. And now we're having a treatment, the best treatment, improved treatment, for mental health.
Yeah, definitely, because we say in psychiatry, they are treating the symptoms, giving drugs, numbing people. I'm not saying that psychiatry doesn't give right drugs for everyone. Every case is a different case, right? One is a real mental illness, is a different case. They need drugs. They actually cannot even have psychedelics. But depending on the case, is just numbing the situation. They are not treating the cause. It's like someone who has fever, and then you just drop your body in an ice bath. Okay, the fever is gone, but not the infection, not the cause, right? So that's why psychology and psychiatry keeps doing it. So that's the real part of the changing of the game. When a psychoanalyst come and say, hey, I'm not treating you like an individual. I'm not labeling you as a wine. Like you're going to be a Cabernet, and then you're going to put a cork on you, and that's going to put you in the shell. That's the problem that is solved. So we are doing here with the transpersonal psychology, individually seeing the spiritual context, the body context, how you treat your health, how you treat your diet. So it's a holistic vision, point of view of yourself.
Very well said. Very well explained. It is so. It's like a toothache. You have a toothache and you just put some medicine. And then again, tomorrow you have the same toothache. And then on the third day you have, I need to go to the dentist. I need to know the cause of the toothache. And when people go to psychiatrists, they go because they have a symptom and they need to get rid of the symptom, but they need to know the cause of the symptom.
And not mention that only giving them drugs will numb this situation, but it's like the situation of the tooth, right? You're going to have just a little anesthesia, and then this infection can be even further, because can be to your bloodstream, can give you other disease, and you're not really taking care, because it's a kind of domino effect. If you're just treating depression, then you can have anxiety, then you can have even more traumas related for the fact you didn't treat the very first cause, right? So when you go straight to the cause, like, hey, let's talking about let's observe these feelings you're having, right? Where this come from? So we have so many other techniques, not only mention the psychedelics, right? You can do breath work, you can do meditation, you can do journaling, you can do some techniques of focus gazing, you can focus the ocean, and is a form of active meditation as well. Like there's so many ways to alterate your state of mind, to take you outside of that situation that caused you so much hurting. And yes, I would say that psychology and psychiatry are not really taking care of this, not as much they should. I have go through so many years in psychiatrists because I have insomnia. Oh, let's give you some sleeping pills. So I slept very good, for sure, for a while. But then the sleep was getting me a kind of addiction, right? I could not sleep without it. And then I had to increase the dose. And why? Why? Because the pharmaceutical company gets some, profit on this, for sure. But me, I'm not taking any benefit from this. So I didn't treat the cause. I didn't look why I was having this problem until I get to another situation that was giving me anxiety. I could not leave the house. I have the kind of, trauma to be in public, like talking in public. So everything was more causing the situation was causing more symptoms instead to only talking, because the psychiatrist didn't want to listen to me. So they sent me to a psychologist who was just really listening to me, but was not make me think, right? Because there's no analytical, critical think. So when you link both together, a great tool is a psychedelic or meditation or breath work, or either like journaling, you start to putting out these feelings and observing them. Is it correct to say that we need more than just drugs?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You need more compliments, because the more you give to yourself, the better you get. If you really take your treatment seriously, and that is not only a substance, it's not only medicines, not only drugs, that you can have all the compliments you said.
Yes. For example, with your clients, with your patients, I was one of them, right? You gave me the very first psychedelic assisted by psychotherapy session, and then we start to talk. Right there, I have a lot of information to work with, and it took me a while to have another big dose, right? You treat me with microdosing, and still I could be talking, I could be seeing myself, knowing myself a little bit more, and seeing my wounds in a different relation with that. I was not avoiding absolutely my pain. I was seeing my pain, saying, yeah, I can survive with it, and I can go through it, right? Definitely I can go with this pain, carry on to my life, right? I kind of overcame my neurose. That's what I was thinking. So refragmenting parts of me that was broken, let's say, like bringing all together. So when you're treating myself like you did and more people, what kind of line do you go with? Is Carl Jung, is more Lacanian? Which is your favorite part of psychoanalysis?
Yes, I'm a Lacanian. A Lacanian, because I also have my first formation is pedagogy, and Lacan. It's somehow a good teacher, and as a good teacher, you need to be a bit hard sometimes, and you get better results. Lacan, for instance, Lacan would say, there was a lady there, and she came to the session with Lacan, and then she said, well, doctor, I don't know what to say today. And then he stood up and said to her, come back tomorrow then.
I already knew that, but it's such a great saying. It's amazing. Can we compare with the vine and the leaves that makes the brew in Santo Daime, in Ayahuasca, which is the female and the male part? Would you compare? Like Khan is the
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the father,
yes, the
It's
grandfather, the one who comes and teaches you in a very severe way.
yes.
But you will
And so,
appreciate later when you get more mature. You appreciate that. Oh, Elaine, that's amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Would you want to say anything else before we finish tonight?
well, I would like to congratulate you because you are taking ahead, all this subject and trying your best, trying to help people getting knowledge, studying, and becoming a better human being uh, in order to help others. And so that's it.
So thank you so much, Aho. Thank you. Thank you. All my love to you and have a great night. And yes, I'm going to stop to record now.